Hey Baphomates. So this is not quite the sort of video I tend to do. So I recorded this about 2 weeks ago. So it's not really much of a script. It was just more stream of consciousness. But basically, I went out going to a funeral, and it gave me some stuff to think about and reflect on. And so I thought I'll do a recording about it and discuss it. So here's the intro. Hey Baphomates, it's me Jobe, and I thought I'd do a video today. So I've not really done a video on my channel for a while. I mostly do stuff on TikTok at the moment, but I've not really had a topic I wanted to cover that's worth doing a YouTube video. And I thought I'd do this one. So earlier today I was at a funeral for an acquaintance of mine. She's very close friends to one of my other friends, and so my friend asked me to go with her because she would have wanted me to be there. I'm not going to go into details as the ins and outs of the relationships and stuff, but a very close friend of a very close friend. So I thought I'd go to support my friend and to kind of say goodbye to someone who I met a few times, but always asked about me, and I always asked about her. So I think it was a good thing to go. So it's earlier today, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, I've been doing this up is because this is the first time I've been to a funeral since being an atheist. Satanist aside, of course. Of course, my friend and I were joking that I might burst into flames, walking on hallowed ground, as it were. My friend herself is Catholic, and she doesn't really care about my religion. Once again, as long as I'm not forcing it down her throat all the time, which I don't, so. And she doesn't do that with me, so we're good friends. And I'd been to this venue several times before for family funerals, and it was a cremation, and we got our little booklet talking about the service and how it's going to go. And it was a really nice service, very nice eulogies, and it was, like I said, it was kind of alien for me because there was basically no one I knew. And of course there was the worry of having a conversation with people who, how do you know this person? I'm like, more of a passing thing really. But anyway, it was a really nice service, and usually the ones I've been to before, people like draw the curtain before the coffin goes, but they left the curtains open so everyone could say goodbye, which I thought was very, very nice. But so one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is because, as I said, this was the first time I've been to a funeral since being an atheist, and it kind of got me to kind of do a lot of self-reflection, and you know, events like that get you thinking a lot. And it was kind of very kind of odd but familiar, where you hear people saying stuff like, you know, we'll see you again and things like that, and it did feel quite strange. Understandable, of course, because obviously a lot of these people believe in an afterlife, and I do not. I'd very much, my opinion is it'd be nice if there was, but I no longer really believe that there is. But then at the same time, there's a lot of talk about, during the wake, there's a lot of talk about, you know, you've got to live life as if this is your only one. So there's a lot of positivity, and this woman brought so many different types of people into her life that everyone had a story, and everyone was interesting, and everyone had some fun story, some experience that was worth a conversation, and just a nice gathering of people, which is all you can really wish for. But one of the things during the service, everyone stood up to do the Lord's Prayer. Now, it has been quite a while since I've recited it. Now, this was the Catholic version without the end part of power and the glory, etc. So it's the Catholic version, because I believe Protestants added that in a little later. So and so I kind of read it with everyone else. I think I was one of the few people reading it from the pages. Everyone else was kind of reciting it, because, as I said before, it's been a while since I've recited the original version anyway. And funny enough, it actually reminded me of the film The Witch, as one of my friends did a podcast about it, and they said that if you are possessed, you physically can't say the Lord's Prayer. And so there I am, kind of reading it because I'm thinking I don't want to get this wrong. I don't want to appear rude. And afterwards, my friend had said to me that she was surprised that I read it, and she said, "Well, I didn't think you'd really want to." And I said, like, "Well, I'm not so against it that I would refuse to do it. Some other people may be, and I'm not going to throw shade on them. We're all individuals. Do what you feel comfortable with." And I didn't feel uncomfortable reading it out. And I said to her that though it's not the sort of thing I do myself, it feels like, I said, it's like going into someone's house and they ask you to take your shoes off. And I kind of saw it that way, kind of this is the service for everyone, and I have no issue doing this. And and of course these sort of things get you thinking about what sort of things you want to do in your life, and also kind of gets to the point of what sort of service do you want and how would you like to go. But yeah, this is the sort of thing. It's interesting in the fact that I no longer believe in an afterlife, a higher power, and it's just very, very interesting. It kind of gets you to think about it. It's not really a lot to this, really. As I said before, it was the Lord's Prayer bit that made me think about talking about this, because it's a case of, this is the event. If I was to go to another religious service, I would still read the things. I was never a fan of hymns growing up. Never really a fan of them, so I'd still feel we're here, we read this. Granted, dyslexia doesn't make stuff like that easy, but yeah, I felt like, this isn't my house, this is someone else's house, so I'm not going to be a rude guest in someone else's house. Yeah, it just gets you to think about stuff like that. And as I said, one of the reasons I wanted to do this video was to talk about that, and also the idea that it's just, and something like this has a very different perspective to me now as it once did, as in, I don't feel that I will see these people again. I personally don't feel that when I go that they'll see me again. Granted, this isn't the case where where I'm going to walk around telling everyone they're ridiculous, because time and place, etc. And who only dickheads basically do that sort of thing, and as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, it's just very, very weird in that sort of environment. I didn't feel uncomfortable. As I said, I grew up religious, but we never really went to church, so I never had any deep indoctrination or anything. I guess the US term would be cafeteria Christian. But yeah, it was just a very interesting experience today. And obviously, and there's a lot of self-reflection, and as I said, what would I do for mine? What would I want done? But yes, as I said, really the point of this is just to kind of go, hey, everyone who has left religion and is no longer theistic, there are, we're out here, we are still, you're not the only one having to manage being in a religious setting and dealing with this sort of thing in regards to things like funerals. We're all over the place. You're not on your own in that regard. We've all got our different experiences. So basically the point of this video is the fact that it's weird being an atheist in that scenario, but it's not a bad experience. As bad as bad as a funeral could be, obviously, but it's still a very human thing to say goodbye to someone, and knowing that you won't see this person again, and it's strange. I feel that because I wasn't deep with this person, that it wasn't a pain I had to manage, but it's still quite an experience seeing a lot of people dealing with the loss, and also having the hope that they'll see them again. And I could be wrong, and I could meet all of my family and afterwards. Do I genuinely know? Of course I don't. But it's just it's just strange. In regards to like seeing, because one of the things that I have had to deal with, and a lot of atheists who have come out of religion has had to deal with, is the idea of having to grieve for someone twice. Because if you've grown up in a religious environment and someone's passed away, you mourn them, but then you have the thing of, well, I'll see them in the next life, and then after a deconversion, you then have to mourn them again, because you thought you will see them. You said goodbye. You've let the emotion out, but but I'll see them soon, and then afterwards you deconstruct, and then you realise you won't. You probably come to the conclusion that you might not see them again, and then you have to kind of mourn them twice. And it tends to be from experience that I've listened to and watched. They say that it's a lot harder because it's a deeper thing, and that's where a lot of kind of frustration comes from when people have deconstructed from religion, because it feels like they've been lied to, not necessarily intentionally, but it's a case where they feel that they've spent their entire lives feeling like everything is okay, and then they come to the conclusion that it's not, and that's it. That's just the end. And a lot of people do struggle with that. And as I said, I'm lucky that it's not a person that I was very, very close with. Obviously, her passing is put a blot in the sky, as it were. She was a really lovely woman and left an impression. You have some people that come into your lives that just kind of, they're a bright star. They leave a very strong impression, but burn out so quickly. And I feel that I will miss the company. I miss the idea that I won't see her again either, because the times we met was really nice. My friend always talked about her when she saw her, and it's just kind of having to kind of mentally understand that is it. And as I said, if you grow up in an environment where you're told, don't worry, there's a next time, and then having to deal with the fact that there probably isn't a next time, a lot of people do struggle with, and I've had to struggle with that myself. I've had to deal with the fact that there are people I won't see again, and some people never had a chance to live at all and had their lives cut super, super short. But I kept having a hope that, well, I'll see them in the next life. They now don't have to worry. They don't have to grow up in this horrible world, and I'll just see them in the afterlife. And I now feel that there is no. I keep saying no. I genuinely don't know, but I've come to the conclusion that there isn't any reason outside of hope. There's not really a reason personally for me to believe that there is something after this. And so I had to deal with the idea that this person, this small person, that I won't see them again. But I spent all of my life believing that I would, and now that I don't. And that's been a very tricky thing to deal with in the last few years. As I said, I've been an atheist for since April 2020, and a Satanist at around the same time. And so it's just, it is strange. If you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer. Leave them in the comments. I'm always happy to answer questions or do video responses. It all depends. But yeah, I just wanted to leave you with that, really. It's been a very strange day, but the interesting part about it is the fact that the funeral I was at, it was full of beautiful people. So many interesting, inspiring, and just how one person can bring so many different people together and have an effect on so many people. It's just, and it's not someone who's on television, it's not someone who's massive online, it's just a person living their life, and they've affected so many people in a positive way. And I've always felt that that's something I've always wanted to kind of be, even when I was a theist, I still had the thought of, still make people's lives good. I mean, yes, there's an afterlife afterwards, but there's still this life to live, and the best thing to do is make everyone's lives as good as can be done. And so yeah, just gets you to think about that, Yeah, I don't really think there's much else I can add, really, but yeah, there wasn't really scripted. I'm just kind of off the top. Yeah, overall, it's been an interesting day, and it gets me to think. And yeah, I hope you find this interesting. I hope this has maybe helped someone. I don't know. We shall see. But until then, don't forget to live deliciously.